Imagine possessing the ability to make anyone like you, effortlessly win people to your way of thinking, and lead with influence and authority. What if the key to personal and professional success wasn't about power or wealth, but about mastering the art of human connection? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is a game-changer in the world of communication and social success. Originally published in 1936, this timeless classic has sold millions of copies worldwide, shaping the way people interact in both their personal and professional lives. Carnegie, a master in public speaking and human relations, discovered that success isn't about who you know, it's about how you make people feel. His principles teach us that being genuinely interested in others, expressing appreciation, and understanding human psychology can open doors to unlimited opportunities. This audiobook summary will take you through Carnegie's core principles, breaking them down into actionable insights. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a manager, a salesperson, or simply someone who wants to improve their relationships, this book is packed with timeless wisdom that will change the way you interact with people. Are you ready to become a master of influence and transform your social skills? Let's dive in. Start with Part 1, Fundamental Techniques in Handling People. This covers 3 chapters. Let's begin with Chapter 1. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. One of the biggest mistakes people make in their interactions is immediately pointing out faults and criticizing others. Carnegie argues that criticism rarely leads to positive change. Instead, it breeds resentment and defensiveness. People naturally resist judgment, and no one enjoys being told they're wrong. Take the example of Abraham Lincoln. Before he became the wise, diplomatic leader we admire today, Lincoln was known for his sharp-tongued criticisms. But after a near-duel over a public insult, he learned an invaluable lesson. Attacking others doesn't change minds, it only creates enemies. He transformed his approach, choosing persuasion over condemnation. Carnegie urges us to replace criticism with understanding. Instead of immediately pointing out flaws, try to empathize with the other person's perspective. Ask yourself, why do they act this way? What pressures might they be facing? By showing compassion rather than condemnation, you build bridges instead of walls. Chapter 2 is, Give honest and sincere appreciation. People crave recognition more than almost anything else. Carnegie highlights the power of appreciation in unlocking doors to better relationships. This doesn't mean empty flattery. People can detect insincerity from miles away. Instead, it's about genuinely recognizing the good in others and expressing it. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in history, built his empire not by focusing on himself, but by recognizing and uplifting those around him. He attributed his success to his ability to inspire loyalty and motivate people through appreciation. Think about a time when someone genuinely complimented you. It probably left a lasting impression. That's the power of appreciation. A small, sincere compliment can brighten someone's day, boost their confidence, and strengthen your relationship with them. Next is Chapter 3, Arouse in the Other Person an Eager Want. People are driven by their own desires. If you want to influence someone, you must align your requests with what they already want. Instead of telling people what you need, frame it in terms of their interests. Consider the story of Ralph Waldo Emerson and his son. Emerson wanted his son to bring in firewood, but his son, like any child, resisted being told what to do. Instead of demanding, Emerson made it fun. He framed the task as a challenge, something his son would enjoy conquering. The result? The boy eagerly completed the task. Carnegie teaches us to stop thinking in terms of what we want and start considering what motivates others. When asking for something, answer this question first. How does this benefit them? If you can show someone that fulfilling your request also meets their own desires, you create a win-win situation. Let's move on to Part 2, 6 Ways to Make People Like You. This parable covers 6 chapters. Chapter 4 is, Become genuinely interested in other people. One of the simplest yet most powerful ways to win people over is by demonstrating a genuine interest in them. People love to talk about themselves, their experiences, interests, and aspirations. When you take the time to ask about their lives and listen attentively, you make them feel valued and important. Carnegie shares the example of a successful businessman who rarely talked about himself but instead focused on others. He asked thoughtful questions and remembered small details, making people feel special. The result? He built deep and meaningful relationships that helped him in both his personal and professional life. To apply this, stop thinking about what you will say next in a conversation. Instead, be fully present. Nod, maintain eye contact, and ask follow-up questions that show genuine curiosity. A smile conveys openness and sincerity, making people more receptive to your presence. Studies in psychology have shown that smiling doesn't just affect how others perceive you, it also affects your own mood. When you smile, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, which enhance happiness and reduce stress. This means that by smiling more often, you not only improve your interactions with others but also improve your own well-being. Next is Chapter 6. Remember that a person's name is the sweetest sound to them. There's a profound sense of identity and personal connection attached to a person's name. Carnegie explains that using someone's name in conversation makes them feel recognized, respected, and valued. People may forget what you say, but they will always remember how you made them feel. A great example of this principle in action is how top business leaders and politicians remember and use people's names to establish rapport. Bill Clinton was famous for his ability to recall names, even of people he had met only once. This small yet impactful habit made him appear more personable and engaging. To implement this in your own life, make it a habit to remember names by repeating them when introduced, associating them with a visual image, and using them naturally in conversation. This simple act can strengthen relationships and leave a lasting impression. Chapter 7 is: Be a good listener and encourage others to talk about themselves. Listening is an underrated yet crucial skill in building relationships. Carnegie stresses that people feel the most connected to those who truly listen to them. When you let others express their thoughts and feelings, you create a bond of trust and appreciation. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, practice active listening. This means giving your full attention, avoiding interruptions, and responding thoughtfully. A good listener makes the other person feel heard and understood, which in turn makes them more likely to enjoy your company. Carnegie illustrates this with an anecdote of a dinner party where a woman declared that a certain guest was the best conversationalist she had ever met. The irony? He hardly spoke at all. He simply listened attentively and encouraged her to share more about herself. People love to talk about their passions, challenges, and experiences. If you become the kind of person who listens with genuine interest, you will be remembered fondly. Next, Chapter 8. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. To capture someone's attention, talk about what matters to them. Carnegie explains that people are naturally drawn to topics that align with their own interests. If you want to make a lasting impression, tailor your conversations to what excites the other person. A great example of this is how skilled salespeople connect with clients. Instead of pushing their product's features, they focus on how it benefits the customer. They ask questions, identify needs, and make the conversation about the client's goals and desires. To use this strategy in daily life, do your research before meeting someone. If you know they love a particular hobby, sport, or topic, bring it up in conversation. This not only makes interactions more engaging but also shows that you care about their interests, strengthening your connection. Chapter 9 is: Make the other person feel important, and do it sincerely. One of the most powerful principles in human relations is the need to feel important. Carnegie states that if you can make someone feel valued in an authentic way, they will always remember you positively. However, it must be sincere. Flattery without truth is transparent and ineffective. One of the greatest examples of this comes from Henry Ford. Despite his immense success, he always made time to acknowledge and appreciate his employees. He knew that making people feel valued motivated them to perform better and strengthened loyalty. To apply this principle, genuinely appreciate people's efforts, talents, and contributions. A simple, "I really admire how you handled that situation," or "Your work on this project was outstanding," can uplift someone's spirits and deepen your relationship with them. But remember, It has to come from a place of sincerity. People can tell the difference between genuine praise and hollow words. By mastering these 6 principles, you can build meaningful relationships, expand your influence, and create a lasting impact on those around you. The ability to make people like you is not about manipulation but about understanding and valuing others in an authentic way. If you put these ideas into practice, you'll find that people will naturally be drawn to you, eager to engage and connect. Now, let's move on to part 3, how to win people to your way of thinking. It has 12 chapters. Now, Chapter 10. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. One of the most common yet destructive habits in human interaction is arguing. Carnegie emphasizes that even if you win an argument, you ultimately lose. Why? Because proving someone wrong often results in resentment, damaged relationships, and a bruised ego. Instead of arguing, seek understanding. Listen to the other person's viewpoint and express your own in a calm, respectful manner. The key is to diffuse tension and create an environment where both parties feel heard. Carnegie shares the story of an executive who transformed a heated boardroom debate into a constructive discussion by simply acknowledging the opposing view first. By doing so, he made others more receptive to his own ideas. This principle is a game changer in negotiations, leadership, and personal relationships. The next time you find yourself in a disagreement, resist the urge to fight back. Instead, ask questions, show curiosity, and look for common ground. Next is Chapter 11. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, "You're wrong." Nobody enjoys being told they are wrong. Carnegie argues that outright dismissing someone's opinion is a surefire way to make them defensive. Instead, he advises approaching disagreements with diplomacy. By showing respect for others' viewpoints, you keep the conversation open and prevent unnecessary conflicts. An example Carnegie shares is of Abraham Lincoln, who was known for his tactful approach to disagreements. Instead of bluntly rejecting ideas, he would ask guiding questions and lead the other person to rethink their position. This method not only preserved relationships but also allowed him to influence others effectively. The next time you disagree with someone, try this. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," say, "That's an interesting perspective. I'd love to understand more about why you think that." This subtle shift in language makes people more open to discussion and helps you present your point without hostility. Next, Chapter 12. If you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. It takes courage and maturity to admit when we're wrong. Carnegie highlights that when we acknowledge our mistakes quickly and sincerely, we not only earn respect but also disarm potential critics. Instead of trying to justify or defend a mistake, owning up to it allows us to move forward constructively. Carnegie shares the example of a businessman who avoided major conflict with a customer by immediately admitting his company's mistake and offering to make it right. Instead of escalating the situation, this approach led to greater trust and loyalty from the client. Think about the times when someone genuinely admitted their fault to you. Didn't it make you respect them more? The lesson here is clear. Humility and honesty are far more powerful than defensiveness. The faster you acknowledge your errors, the quicker you can rebuild trust and turn a mistake into an opportunity for growth. Chapter 13 is, begin in a friendly way. People are naturally more receptive to ideas when approached with warmth and kindness. Carnegie emphasizes that no matter how strong your argument is, if you present it with aggression or hostility, you'll likely be met with resistance. However, if you begin in a friendly manner, you pave the way for a more productive conversation. He illustrates this with an example of a lawyer who was able to win difficult cases by starting every interaction on a positive note. Rather than confronting opposing counsel aggressively, he would find common ground and speak in a courteous, friendly tone. This made it easier to negotiate and persuade. The key takeaway? Approach every discussion with friendliness and goodwill. Whether it's a business deal, a debate, or a simple request, starting with kindness makes all the difference. Now, Chapter 14. Get the other person saying, "Yes, yes," immediately. Carnegie highlights the psychological principle of momentum. When someone starts saying, "Yes," they are more likely to continue agreeing with you. The trick is to start conversations in a way that leads the other person to agree with small, logical statements before introducing the main point. For example, a skilled salesperson won't immediately push a product. Instead, they ask questions that the customer is likely to agree with. Would you like to save time on your daily routine? Or, do you value high-quality products? This makes it easier to introduce the final proposition. In your own conversations, try structuring your arguments in a way that builds agreement step by step. This approach lowers resistance and increases the likelihood of a positive outcome. Next is Chapter 15. Let the other person do most of the talking. People love to talk about themselves. Carnegie stresses that if you want to win someone over, encourage them to share their thoughts, ideas, and concerns. Instead of dominating the conversation, be genuinely interested and let them express themselves. He shares a story of a man who attended a dinner party and hardly spoke about himself, instead focusing entirely on others. By the end of the night, everyone thought he was the most fascinating person in the room, even though he barely talked. Why? Because he made others feel heard and valued. This principle is especially useful in sales, negotiations, and leadership. When people feel they have been listened to, they trust you more. The next time you engage in a conversation, resist the urge to talk too much. Instead, ask questions, listen attentively, and watch as people warm up to you naturally. Chapter 16 is, let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. One of the most effective ways to persuade someone is to make them believe that the idea was theirs all along. Carnegie explains that when people feel ownership over an idea, they are more likely to support and act on it. Great leaders and negotiators use this technique all the time. Instead of forcing their opinions onto others, they guide conversations in a way that allows the other person to arrive at the conclusion themselves. For example, instead of saying, "You should do it this way," they might say, "Have you considered this approach? What do you think?" The lesson here is simple. People resist being told what to do, but they embrace ideas they believe they came up with. If you want to influence others, guide them subtly rather than pushing your viewpoint directly. Next, Chapter 17. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Empathy is a cornerstone of influence. Carnegie explains that when you genuinely try to understand the other person's perspective, you build trust and open up the possibility of finding common ground. He tells the story of a father who was struggling with his son's behavior. Instead of enforcing strict discipline, the father took the time to see things from his son's perspective. This shift in approach transformed their relationship and led to mutual understanding. This principle is invaluable in resolving conflicts, negotiating deals, and strengthening relationships. Before reacting in disagreement, take a moment to step into the other person's shoes. Ask yourself, why do they feel this way? By doing so, you'll respond with greater wisdom and compassion. Chapter 18. Appeal to the nobler motives. People like to see themselves as good, honest, and moral individuals. Carnegie suggests that when trying to persuade someone, appeal to their higher values. Instead of pushing personal gain, highlight how their actions can benefit others or align with their integrity. He explains that people are more likely to make decisions when they feel it reflects positively on their character. A classic example is when a business leader needs their team to work overtime on an important project. Instead of saying, "We need you to stay late for company profits," a more effective approach would be, "Your hard work will help countless customers and strengthen our team's reputation for excellence." By framing the request around a noble cause, people feel a greater sense of purpose and commitment. This principle can be applied in daily life as well. Whether convincing a friend, colleague, or family member, frame your arguments around values such as honesty, kindness, or responsibility. When people see their actions as part of a bigger, positive purpose, they are much more likely to comply willingly. Next is Chapter 19. Dramatize your ideas. People are more likely to be persuaded when information is presented in a compelling and dramatic way. Carnegie emphasizes that simply stating facts or making logical arguments often fails to capture attention. Instead, Engaging storytelling, vivid imagery, and emotional appeal make ideas more memorable and persuasive. Imagine you're a leader trying to rally your team. Instead of saying, "We need to work harder to meet our targets," picture painting a vision. Every dollar we earn isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's the reason we can grow, hire new talent, and change lives. Think of the impact we make when we push ourselves beyond limits. By bringing emotion and visualization into communication, the message becomes more inspiring and effective. Throughout history, great leaders have used dramatization to ignite change. Think of Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I have a dream" speech. Rather than simply stating facts about racial injustice, he painted a powerful vision of the future. The same principle applies in business, relationships, and even marketing. Advertisements don't just list product features. They craft narratives that evoke emotions, like a cleaning product instantly restoring a surface to perfection or a fitness brand showcasing incredible transformations. Dramatization isn't about exaggeration, it's about making messages resonate on a deeper, emotional level. To apply this principle in everyday life, find ways to make your ideas more engaging. Use metaphors, examples, and storytelling to illustrate your point. Whether you're pitching an idea, coaching a team, or persuading a friend, a little drama can turn a mundane message into something unforgettable. Next is Chapter 20, Throw Down a Challenge. Competition fuels motivation. When people are challenged, their natural instinct is to rise to the occasion, pushing beyond perceived limitations to achieve success. Instead of commanding people to work harder or be better, Carnegie suggests tapping into this drive by presenting them with a challenge that excites and inspires. Consider a business leader who wants to boost productivity. Instead of saying, "We need to increase output by 20%, they could issue a challenge. "Who can set the new company record for sales this quarter? The winner will earn the title of top performer and receive a special reward." Suddenly, work becomes a competition, turning the challenge into a source of motivation rather than pressure. This strategy works beyond business. Parents can challenge children to beat their personal bests, teachers can inspire students with academic contests, and coaches can push athletes to surpass their previous records. Even personal development benefits from this mindset. Setting personal challenges, like reading a certain number of books in a year, waking up earlier, or exercising consistently, can transform self-improvement into an exciting game rather than a burdensome obligation. The key is to make the challenge both attainable and stimulating. If it's too easy, there's no motivation. If it's too hard, it feels discouraging. A well-crafted challenge taps into the human desire for achievement and recognition, turning hard work into a rewarding pursuit. When used wisely, this technique can inspire people to reach heights they never thought possible. Chapter 21 tells, giving people a sense of importance. The greatest emotional need of human beings is the desire to feel valued. Carnegie repeatedly emphasizes that making others feel important is one of the most effective ways to build influence, strengthen relationships, and inspire loyalty. People crave appreciation, and when they feel genuinely valued, they respond with greater enthusiasm, commitment, and goodwill. Think about the most inspiring leaders or mentors in your life. Chances are, they made you feel like your contributions mattered. They recognized your strengths, praised your efforts, and made you feel seen. This principle applies in every area of life, whether in business, friendships, or even casual interactions. A simple statement like, "You played a key role in making this happen," or "Your creativity brought a unique perspective to this project," can transform someone's confidence and motivation. In business, this can mean acknowledging employees' efforts in meaningful ways. Instead of a generic, "Good job," personalize praise. "The way you handled that client was incredible. Your patience and problem-solving skills turned the situation around." In relationships, it can mean actively listening and making people feel heard. A friend who feels truly understood and valued will always cherish that bond. Even in customer service, treating a client as though they are the most important person at that moment creates trust and loyalty. Carnegie also suggests giving people a reputation to live up to. If someone is struggling with punctuality, instead of reprimanding them, say, "You've always been so dependable, and I know I can count on you." This positive reinforcement subtly encourages them to align their actions with that image. The more people feel important, the more they contribute positively. A leader who elevates others earns their trust, respect, and commitment. A friend who makes others feel valued strengthens bonds that last a lifetime. The simple act of making someone feel significant can transform relationships and create a powerful ripple effect of positivity and motivation. Ultimately, Carnegie's lessons in this chapter remind us that leadership isn't about asserting dominance. It's about lifting others up. By making people feel heard, valued, and appreciated, we inspire them to become their best selves while building strong, lasting relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and admiration. Now at the last but not the least. Part 4 is, Be a Leader, How to Change People Without Giving Offense or Arousing Resentment. Now we are at Chapter 22, Begin with Praise and Honest Appreciation. People respond best to constructive criticism when it is preceded by sincere praise. Carnegie explains that acknowledging someone's strengths before offering suggestions creates an open, receptive mindset. When you start with appreciation, the person feels valued rather than attacked, making them more likely to listen and improve. Imagine a manager giving feedback to an employee. Instead of saying, "You need to be more organized," they could start with, "I really admire how dedicated you are to your work. Your creativity and commitment stand out." One way to enhance your effectiveness even further is by improving organization. This approach ensures the person feels encouraged rather than discouraged. Genuine appreciation builds trust and cooperation, making leadership more effective in personal and professional relationships. Next is Chapter 23, Call Attention to People's Mistakes Indirectly. Criticism can be a delicate matter. Carnegie suggests that instead of bluntly pointing out someone's mistakes, a more effective approach is to guide them toward realization through indirect suggestions. This prevents defensiveness and fosters a willingness to improve. A great way to implement this is by sharing a personal anecdote. I used to struggle with time management until I found a system that worked for me. Maybe something similar could help you. This way, you avoid making the other person feel embarrassed or attacked, allowing them to accept your advice without resistance. This strategy is particularly useful in leadership and parenting, where the goal is to encourage growth rather than create resentment. Chapter 24 is, Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Nobody likes to feel inferior. Carnegie highlights that admitting your own mistakes before addressing someone else's can disarm defensiveness and make your feedback more relatable. When people see that you are not perfect either, they feel more comfortable accepting constructive criticism. For instance, instead of saying, "You always interrupt people in meetings," you could say, "I used to struggle with interrupting people, but I've learned that active listening makes a big difference. Maybe we can both work on that." This approach turns a critical statement into a shared growth opportunity, making it far more effective. Leaders who show humility gain respect and cooperation, strengthening relationships in all areas of life. Next is Chapter 25. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. People are more likely to embrace an idea when they feel involved in the decision-making process. Instead of issuing commands, Carnegie advises asking questions that guide others toward the desired conclusion. This empowers individuals and makes them feel respected rather than controlled. For example, rather than telling an employee, "Fix this report by tomorrow," a leader could ask, "Do you think we could refine this report to make it even clearer? What improvements would you suggest?" By involving the other person in the solution, they become more motivated and engaged. This principle is invaluable in leadership, parenting, and teamwork, where collaboration leads to better results and stronger relationships. Chapter 26 says, Let the other person save face. Few things damage relationships more than humiliation. Carnegie stresses the importance of allowing people to save face, even when they are clearly in the wrong. When correcting someone, do it in a way that preserves their dignity. For example, if an employee makes a mistake on a project, instead of saying, This is completely wrong. You might say, I see what you were trying to do here, there's a lot of good work. With a few adjustments, we can get it exactly right. This allows them to correct their mistake without feeling embarrassed, maintaining their confidence and motivation. A leader who protects people's dignity fosters loyalty and respect, making collaboration far more productive. Next is Chapter 27, Praise the slightest improvement and be sincere about it. Encouragement is a powerful motivator. Carnegie emphasizes that people thrive on positive reinforcement, no matter how small their progress. By recognizing even minor improvements, you inspire continued effort and growth. If a student struggling in school improves slightly on a test, rather than saying, "You still have a long way to go," it's far more effective to say, "You improved from last time. Keep it up. I know you can do even better." This small boost of confidence keeps motivation high and fosters a growth mindset. Leaders and mentors who genuinely acknowledge effort and progress create an environment where people feel encouraged to reach their full potential. Chapter 28. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. People tend to behave in a way that aligns with how they are perceived. Carnegie suggests giving people a positive reputation that they feel compelled to uphold. For example, if a team member struggles with punctuality, instead of saying, "You're always late," try, "I know you're a reliable person, and I really appreciate it when you're on time." This subtly reinforces the desired behavior, making the individual more likely to live up to that standard. This principle works especially well in parenting, teaching, and leadership, where setting high yet attainable expectations inspires people to improve themselves. Next is Chapter 29, Use encouragement. Make the faults seem easy to correct. When people believe a task is impossible, they give up before they even try. Carnegie explains that making a challenge seem manageable inspires action and perseverance. Instead of saying, "You're terrible at public speaking," you could say, "Public speaking is tough for everyone at first, but with practice, you'll get the hang of it." This slight change in framing shifts the focus from failure to potential growth. Encouragement helps people feel capable, turning obstacles into opportunities for self-improvement. Chapter 30 is, Make the other person happy about doing what you suggest. The final chapter of the book ties together all the previous lessons. People are far more likely to do what you ask if they feel happy and empowered about it. Carnegie suggests framing requests in a way that highlights benefits and aligns with the other person's values and desires. Instead of saying, "You need to help with this project," try, "Your skills would make a huge impact on this project, and I'd love to have you involved." By focusing on appreciation and positive reinforcement, you make cooperation an enjoyable experience rather than a chore. The key to influencing others effectively is to lead with positivity, respect, and encouragement. When people feel valued and inspired, they willingly go the extra mile, creating a cycle of success and goodwill. So, at the end, the key takeaways of this book. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is a masterpiece in human relations, offering timeless wisdom on communication, leadership, and social influence. At its core, this book teaches that people crave appreciation, respect, and understanding more than anything else. The secret to building meaningful relationships lies in our ability to make others feel valued and important. By focusing on sincere praise instead of criticism, listening intently rather than dominating conversations, and showing genuine interest in others, we can build stronger connections and establish lasting influence. People are naturally drawn to those who uplift them, and Carnegie demonstrates that treating others with kindness and admiration fosters goodwill, trust, and cooperation. One of the most powerful takeaways from this book is that arguments rarely produce winners. Instead of engaging in heated debates or proving others wrong, Carnegie suggests that we acknowledge differing viewpoints and seek common ground. When people feel respected and heard, they become more receptive to our ideas and less defensive. This approach makes persuasion more effective and ensures that relationships remain intact, even in moments of disagreement. Additionally, simple yet profound gestures, such as a warm smile, using people's names, and making them feel important, can create lasting impressions. These small acts of genuine kindness go a long way in making others feel seen and appreciated, ultimately strengthening our influence and likability. Leadership, according to Carnegie, isn't about asserting authority. It's about inspiring and empowering people to reach their full potential. True leaders understand that dictating orders and enforcing rules without empathy only leads to resistance and resentment. Instead, they guide and uplift others by giving honest and encouraging feedback, recognizing their strengths, and allowing them to save face in difficult situations. This builds morale, loyalty, and motivation, turning workplaces, social groups, and even personal relationships into environments of collaboration and mutual growth. Moreover, Carnegie teaches that people are more likely to embrace our ideas when they believe it aligns with their interests. By framing requests in a way that appeals to others' desires and aspirations, we naturally generate enthusiasm and cooperation. Ultimately, How to Win Friends and Influence People is more than just a book about social skills. It's a guide to mastering the art of human connection. The ability to communicate effectively, understand people's emotions, and foster positive relationships is invaluable in every aspect of life, from personal relationships to business and leadership. Those who apply Carnegie's principles will find themselves gaining more friends, earning greater influence, and achieving success effortlessly. The beauty of these lessons is that they require no manipulation or deception, just genuine care for others, a willingness to listen, and an understanding that people respond best to kindness, encouragement, and appreciation. By embodying these principles, anyone can cultivate deeper relationships, inspire others, and create a lasting impact in their personal and professional lives. If you found this summary insightful and valuable, don't forget to show your support by subscribing to the Mindful Brief on YouTube. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this audiobook summary, share it with your peers who might benefit from it, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. Your engagement helps us create more in-depth and valuable content for you. Stay tuned for more summaries, insights, and strategies to elevate your knowledge and career. Subscribe now and be part of the journey.